Today's March 11th, 2025. It'd be nice for me to just be like, yeah, I just recorded all this stuff in the same clothes. But no, I'm wearing the same shirt. I do this. This is who I am. Um, if my clothes aren't dirty, I'm not gonna change them. Um, if my hair isn't dirty, I'm not gonna wash it. Granted, I can't say any of that for my hands. My hands are so dry from washing. Um, it's not a compulsion or anything. I just have to wash my hands because I have to wash my hands. But in general, for the most part, even if my house may be a little cluttered, my space is always still clean. Um, and also, I don't really be going out doing stuff that's dirty. I will sweat in my clothes. Yes, absolutely. Um, but for the most part, my sweat doesn't stink. It's just a lot of it. It's just a lot of sweat. And it's not from lack of believing that my sweat stinks, but it does. Mhm. Anyway, all this to say is show up the way you show up. At least you're there. If people are gonna judge you because of what you're wearing or whatever, then let them. That's on them. Honestly, every single time somebody has judged me or said, "Oh, you're gonna do this to me" or whatever or this or blah blah blah, I see how clearly. I mean, that's for me. It's easier said than done, is what I will say, because it still hurts my feelings when it happens. Like, what's your problem? But honestly, who gives any fucks? Like, I mean, I know you give fucks. That's the thing. That's the bigger thing, is that you give a fuck about what people think of you, and that's okay. That is normal. It's normal that way. Like, that's kind of like a societal norm to be like, hey, I care about what my tribe thinks. And but in this whole thing, and this, I also started this with a whole other reason, but this is what happened. Um, Even asking for help makes you look like you. It gives you a chance to be vulnerable. It gives your community a chance to say no to helping you, for you to feel alone, for your prophecy of being alone and misunderstood, for it to come true. And so sometimes you're just not even trying, and that's okay, because trying is an action of its own. So if you're trying, that means you're not actively building a community. You're trying to build a community. And that's different. That is just different energy. Um, Going out and building a community means that you're gonna go talk to people. Maybe they're your neighbors. Maybe they're somebody at the store. Um, Maybe it's just somebody who's like in a car next to you, and like you just happen to be like, you know, there are connections to be made. And it's about to be springtime on the 20th of March. It'll be springtime. What a perfect time to go out and socialize. It is currently a 3 month in the world, so maybe do a little socialization. You know, maybe go out to a date on your own with yourself. You know, but go socialize, go converse, go co-create, go get inspired by what it is to just have so much fun that you're laughing, that your cheeks hurt and the back of your head hurts because you've been smiling and laughing so hard. And then drive home and be like, oh, that was such a good time. Oh, I had such a good time. Da, da, da. And remind yourself that good times can happen. A lot easier said than done. I know you're not necessarily like sure why that there's like this energy that has been like preventing the full start to happen, but even to yourself you'll be like, okay, I'll start but when this. I'll start but when this. Oh, and the light goes off when I say it. I'll start but when this. It's always when this happens, then I'll do it. And it's like you literally just have to start it. You just have to start. And the whole reason I even started recording was because the word resilience came to me. And it resonated with me. The word resilience is there because you are resilient. And it's almost so like frustrating how resilient you are to yourself. You're like, can't I just be a little bit, can't I just be allowed to be squishy? And it's almost like you can't even admit to yourself that you want to be squishy. It's this whole thing. With letters and words, so letters and words, letters and words. The depending on which numerology, alpha numerology you use, resilience and silence are only two letters away from, or actually three letters away from each other. REI is added to silence, and you get resilience. For Pythagorean, E is a 5, R is a 9, I is a 9. In Chaldean, I believe I is a 1. R might be a 1. But don't catch me lying to you. Don't catch me. I'll run. R is a 2 in Chaldean. So 215 is a 5 7 times. And 7 times it is a 9. As in ET for Chaldean. On the improved. Anyway, but quite simply, they're 3 letters away. In the English language, there are lots of things that, there are lots of frequencies and vibrations that are constantly happening. And this is happening in all languages, really. Tones, context. English is not a tonal language at all. Like, we will like put tone in things like sarcasm and all that. But it's not necessarily something that people know English for. I'm not saying you have to stop being resilient, but maybe take the silent out of it. Maybe stop that part of the cycle. And then maybe you won't have to be resilient anymore. And maybe you can just move in confidence and comfort. Because even remaining in the state of, I survived after my trauma. That's the state, is that I survived after my trauma. But now the trauma is still there. It's still active in the thought, in the 9/11, as I say this. It's still active. It's still there. As opposed to like, I survived. I survived still indicates that something happened that in which you could not have survived, possibly. 929. You are exactly all the things that you need. T-I. Or is that a J? A J-Y? Joy. Joy. And a crown? Like a king's crown. Like one of those big ones that are like kind of go like this and puffy. Is that a bat? It's wings like this? Or is that like I think like the Star Wars logo, like the dark side. I don't know. Nope, that looks like a tadpole. I'm opening my eyes. Um, so whether that be talking about your story in a different way, in a way that you haven't talked about it, um, like so one, if you haven't talked about it at all, talking about it is different way than you have been talking about it. Even if it's just out loud to yourself. Because how many times are you actually saying the things in your head out loud? Because we know you have lots of things going on in your head. Because we all do. We pretend like we don't. We pretend like everything is fine. But like 11:11, as I say this, we all got something popping up at some point for some reason. Do you have a wedgie? Possibly. Did somebody smell really nice when they passed by? Possibly. Are you hungry? Or are you bored? Yes. But either way, if you've been feeling alone, like there's no one to talk to, it's okay to speak with yourself out loud. It's something that we can find ourselves lost in sometimes, in our maladaptive daydreams when we're processing out loud, whispering to ourselves. We're simply processing. Like, you're here because your safe place is the bathroom. Like, you're here because you had to have a safe place in your house. And, like, even though you have made things be good enough in relationships, doesn't mean that it was good enough for you. That's all, every relationship. And there are some relationships that maybe you could have been better in. Sure, great, amazing. But you're tired of being fumbled. And so now you have stepped into this whole thing where you weren't fumbling yourself anymore. Because all you ever taught was some loose grip and some with yourself. Because that's what everybody else did with you. And you're like, actually what I can do instead of like freaking the heck out every time I touch it, I just be like, okay, maybe just like make sure I have a full hold of it first before I even start. Like whatever. I don't know. I don't know how you grab stuff sustainably. I don't play football. You got me tripping, stumbling, flipping, fumbling, clumsy 'cause I'm falling in love. You remember Fergie? I remember Fergie. She's Fergalicious. And we were all Fergalicious. Y'all ever heard of Mariah Carey? She came from a bad place or a rough house. Y'all remember that time when she had a sister? I think she still does. But she had a sister, and that was a little thing in the media for a while. I don't remember it. I don't know if I was born yet. But I do know of it now because it's in the zeitgeist about Mariah Carey sometimes. I mean, not all the time, but sometimes. It makes sense why she needed to make that song about Eminem. Why you so obsessed with me? Boy, I wanna know. And that's you know what's wild is that how come I resonated with that song whenever it came out? I don't know how old I was, but I wasn't old enough. Exactly. But I wasn't old enough to be like, but I did have boys obsessed with me. Multiple. And at the time, it was just like I kept telling myself, this is just the type of people that I attract. I attract people who are just obsessed with me. Like, no, that isn't necessarily true. I just wanted to be liked so bad that I liked people who were obsessed with me. Granted, my partner's still obsessed with me, but in a healthy way, not in a I'll kill myself if you leave me way. Like, I'm allowed to leave the relationship if I wanted to. I'm not worried about him hitting me or hurting my feelings or anything like that, even though he's fully capable, highly capable. But I don't have to worry about that. I can't say the same for my exes. My exes I felt scared of. Even now, sometimes I still feel scared of my exes. Um, but that's the life I was living then. That was the resilient, strong, can handle it all 838 as I say this. All alone, in silence, transmuting the pain because I'm an alchemist. But part of alchemy is community, whether or not you believe it. Having other vibration working towards the same goal, having other people help alchemize the energy with you would mean that you have to alchemize less energy. But you still have this hyper independence. You still have this guard, I guess. I wanted to say more like a cell wall. And like you're just deciding what actually gets to permeate through it. You've done a good job of filtering. Um, but that's also an ego thing. Like you're, oh, I don't want to say something because that might hurt somebody's feelings. Um, and sure, if you've been the type of person who just says so much stuff all the time, that's what people tell you all the time. You talk too much, and then that's you know you and you know what yourself knows if that's an issue for you. Yourself also knows if silence is the issue for you. Do you speak up on your own boundaries, or do you try and find ways to understand where they're coming from first? And like it's literally wild. For some people, I'm like, hey, your daily dose of empathy, you need to take that. Some people, you don't need that much empathy. You are already empathizing enough. You're empathizing so much so that you're sacrificing your own well-being, that you're not even empathizing with yourself now because you're so busy empathizing with other people because you really believe that if their emotions are good that you'll be good. And like you will, it'll be easier for sure, but it's not your job. And it's not meant to be something you sacrifice yourself for, your truest self for. But that's what you do. You PP'er, you people pleasing people, pee pants. You're pee pants. So, quit PPing everywhere. It's disgusting and it smells. Go be weird out there. Like, you know how many times? I mean, I don't bring it up too often in here. You don't know how many times. Y'all don't know my life. But I'll let you know something. I decided a few years back that I'm going to be a weirdo. Like, I'm not going to care what people think. It's taken me this long, however long since I've posted my first video doing this stuff, it's taken me that long to get to this point. 2024 as I say this. And it was a lot easier said than done. I literally would throw up and shake and literally vomit. Sweat so profusely. Then there was stinky sweat. I was in positions that I was like, oh well, no, I just have to get through it. It's my anxiety and da 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 da. But I just wasn't listening to myself. I just wasn't listening to myself. And I was still doing the things that everybody said was right for me. But also, no one knew who I was. And the few people who got to talk to me and give me advice, they didn't know me enough to give me advice. Even people who were very close to me don't know me enough to give me advice, and that's because I am silent. That is because I don't share my stuff. There was a time in my life where I would share my trauma with people, but then people actively stole my stories. And that's weird. That feels really weird. When you start talking about your abuse and trauma to someone, and then they go around and then they say that that happened to them to the T. And I'm like, ooh. That's weird stuff. But girls are weird. Like if there were plenty of times that I was like, oh, you know, wearing this color gets that girl attention, so I'm gonna wear that color too. But that color doesn't look good on me. Or whatever. Or even if it does look good on me, it's still like maybe somebody was just giving her a compliment. 22 as I say this. Anyway. All right, y'all. I'm gonna do my day. I've got business to handle. So yeah. In the meantime, lovies, y'all do keep a lookout for the numbers and stay synchronized.